Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, greetings. Thank you so much for joining us today on HempAware Radio. This is your host, Tyler Hemp at hempaware.com. This is a very exciting and empowering Hempisode with designer, engineer, innovator Kevin Hodge. He's probably a lot of other things. And he's with a company called HempAdobeHomes.com. And we're going to dive deeper into the uses, benefits, and sustainable value that hemp provides as a building material and an economic and health savior for the United States and ultimately the world. Today's Hempisode is Hemp Adobe Homes, Our Ancient History and Prosperous Future. And first I'd like to ask Kevin some questions about what he has found to support his success in the hemp industry. And then we're going to get into some of the physical, structural, and environmental benefits and value that hemp has as a building material. And today we'll help make the distinction between hempcrete and hemp adobe. There is a difference, and Kevin is probably the most qualified person to explain the difference to us between hempcrete and hemp adobe. You've probably heard of hempcrete. You've probably seen it online. And now you're going to hear the distinction and realize what the difference is so that we can start doing some really amazing things. So without further ado, thank you so much for being on the show today with us, Kevin. How's your HempAware world?
Oh, it's nice here in Western Washington. Very, very sunny after about, last week we got 11 inches of rain in one town, and then, of course, in my town, Aberdeen, had gotten 9 inches of rain. We had lots of flooding, lots of crazy stuff, but looks like we're really, really quite nice. It's a little chilly, but things are always looking.
Right on. Well, some parts of the world need lots of water, and some parts are drenched.
Oh yeah. I don't think we need 11 inches. Three normally works.
Right. Well, I'm really thankful to have you on the show. I know you've been involved in some really amazing things in the past. But what I want to first ask you is, to tell us a little bit about your background and how your life experiences kind of led up to being introduced to hemp as a building material, and, how you came across it for the first time and kind of what your response was and got you inspired into this industry.
Okay. All right. Well, primarily I've got 30 years of aviation composites experience. I've worked with a lot of EAA craft, experimental aircraft, kit planes for the most part. I didn't really want to go into, the Boeings or McDonnell Douglas or, any of the commercial applications. I came from the Marine Corps in the Harrier Aviation Group, and as a tactical squadron, I went from one squadron, which all the squadrons at the time in the 80s, in 1980, 82 to 86 were, from 1982 to 84 and a half, say, were the British Harrier that the Marine Corps had purchased. And it was a full aluminum bird with the vector thrust for engines, the Pegasus thrust models from the Brits, and McDonnell Douglas and British Aerospace had joint ventured on a new bird, a more powerful, bigger engine, and a slightly larger plane than the former versions. And it was a 50-50 bird, meaning that it was a composite skin and an aluminum endoskeleton. So my primary thing was my job was weapon systems and intelligence of all things. So they were prepping me for all sorts of stuff down in Langley, afterwards. But I decided that I didn't really want to go do the I Spy thing and James Bond, and so that would have been another 6-year hitch and all that mess. So, unfortunately, during that time, fortunately and unfortunately, it was the things how it turned out is I broke my right foot playing all marine volleyball. I got stuck in the tool room on light duty, And the British Aerospace and McDonnell Douglas reps took me under their wing, handed me the manual for this this new plane, and I sucked that manual dry. You know, I studied everything about it, and they had composite kits and things like that for bird strikes and bullet holes and all sorts of things. And so I learned all of that information in a short period of time. And once I decided to get out of the Marines, I went to work for a yacht company here on the coast, and started out building 100 plus footers. Right. Well, the experience and the training that I had gotten from the Marines was far superior to any marine application out there with fiberglass. And so when I showed up, I was way ahead of all these other guys that were there, you know, slinging fiberglass with chopper guns and doing big wet layups, and you know, it was real stinky stuff too. It's all polyester. And, kind of got bored with that in no time at all. Picked a job with Kenworth. PACCAR is what it is. It's the guys that actually build the big road trucks and logging trucks and such, freight liners and things of that nature. And got invited to go to corporate because of my skill set and acumen on what I was doing, and redesigned their hood geometries so that if they were doing severe service work or, you know, logging roads with a lot of mud, the mud as an abrasive would tear the hoods up, and surpassed everything. But I was newly married at the time, and I didn't want the rat race up in Seattle, so I decided that I would strike it out on my own, and from time to time I would build these experimental aircraft through contracts, and I ran my own boat show, my own boat company, and did very well with that. I built boats like airplanes, super light, super tough, and had a huge following, and was getting ready to take a contract with Boaters World, an East Coast company at the time, branching out to the West Coast, and getting my products into their stores and such. And then, of course, life happened, and everything, how that goes, and I decided it was time for a change. And so I was living up south of Tacoma, Washington, which you know, Puyallup is what it's called. And my girlfriend was, during the 2008 crash, had lost her house. Well, I was done with doing composite work because of the smell of, you know, polyiso resins and things of that nature. And you know, with coming up, I think it was 25 years of experience at the time, I started formulating something different. And hempcrete was coming around, and I've always been, you know, a naturalist type of guy, you know, a little more of a Boy Scout beach bum type of thing, but very, very into the spiritual aspects of nature and you know, how to interact rather than supersede, right? Once I was there, I was also heavily involved in the alternative energy world, where common sense solutions to uncommon problems, you know, with power generation and, you know, saving the environment, you know, lessen your carbon footprint, you know, all the buzzwords, right? And then USG lead contracts, things of that nature were coming around, and I saw it with Al Gore's book as basically just a big marketing push to get this and others around the world to see that hey, we're really killing the planet. So what can we do to stop this? And during the time that my girlfriend's house was you know, going through the motions and this, that, I told her, she just stop paying. They're gonna hose you anyway. There's nothing you can do. The courts are wrapped up in this as well. They're just as complicit, you know, as with our government. And so I came up with Hemp Adobe. At first, I had to study hempcrete to see what it was, and in my skill set, I'm really fast at what I do. I can see it from start to the end, and basically in a flash of inspiration. It's like putting yourself 5 to 10 years down the road and seeing, what you've created from that daydream. And it's just kind of a weird gift. But I studied the Europeans' recipe of hempcrete, and I found that it had no structure whatsoever. And so I wanted to increase the structure without timber framing, and so I chose a different material, mag oxide. And because of my experience in lightweight craft of aviation and trucking and boating, I thought, well, gee, a composite panel is nothing more than foam and fiberglass, fiberglass wrapped around foam. And I was getting ready to splash out composite yurts. Because the panels were lightweight, a person could simply set these things up as a standalone unit for, either live-in or, something where the parking by the river, resorts, weddings, you name it. They're rentals. They were, disaster relief type of structures, because they were round and the wind wouldn't catch them, right, tear them up, or they had a huge wind and snow loads that were definitely taken care of just by their geometric shape.
Absolutely.
And with all that knowledge, I decided that to do a composite with after farting around with all that, the European recipe, okay? I mean, we're talking months of playing around and going, this takes too long for me. I get impatient, right? And the mag oxide snapped off, started to set in 15 minutes. And I was talking to a guy that I had done a lot of things with Glenn Roberts down in Bakersfield at the time, and he's always been behind me and getting things going and such like that. And so I'm talking to him on the phone, and I throw some water in this stuff. And before I'm done, and it's probably about 80 degrees out, right? Sun's beating down. And I look over, and the material is hard. My first, handful of cups of this mag oxide inside of this little ice cream bucket, of all things, and it's hard. I'm like, and it's hot, right? and I go, holy crap, Glenn, this really works. This is the stuff. And so all I ended up doing was applying it in certain millimeters of thickness to achieve what needed to be done for the load. So the calculations were easy to do on a concrete-related product. And then I added a honeycomb insert to their thing and made it monolithic by using detents. So here I'm making all these panels, right, these small panels, and doing these tests with them and such like that, and finding out what exactly I can do with it. So once I started plugging all the numbers in and figuring out, what the cost to the value of the home would be, what the efficiencies would be, and how to attain those efficiencies, how can I go a little further in eliminating all of the construction efforts, the carpentry, the extra labor costs, which are always about 2/3 of the cost of the building. How can I get rid of it? And by doing horizontal manufacturing and casting this material into molds, I could make these panels, connect them like a SIPS panel, okay, and then simply backfill the recesses of the panel with hemp as an insulator. Well, that worked out pretty good, and then I finally found out what the specs were on the material, and they started at 6,500 psi compression rate to 11,000 pounds.
That's amazing. So that means for every square inch of material, you can have up to 11,000 pounds of pressure. Is that right? That's amazing. So why do you think, or why will the hemp building market create more value, opportunity, and economic growth in the U.S. and around the world? What are some of the economy, locally and globally?
Well, from my perspective, is that it's time that it's come. The stigma is off, okay, and North American people need to. The Canadians are way ahead of us. I deal very, very explicitly with the Canadians. They're very good, very easy to work with. They don't have any stigmas that the American public have been duped into. Mm-hmm. The reefer stuff. It's all marijuana. It's all it's you damn kids, you damn dirty pot smokers, and all that stuff. It's like
mm-hmm.
Hey, my body, my choice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hemp by itself, historically, pre 70 years ago, had a lot of value because of its various products that you can make from it. If you boil the stuff, okay, you can make
mm-hmm.
beer and paper. You can make lignin glue. You can do all sorts of things in just in that fashion. If you combine it with other things, you have building materials. If you boil it down, once again, you got what they call a CBD reaction. Okay,
mm-hmm.
most of the things, from what I understand, there is 25,000 products that can come from this one plant. And knowing that 25,000 products can be retroed into already existing or end-of-life cycle products, you can do it cheaper because there's just not, you're growing one crop, okay, getting anywhere from 4 to 6 ton per acre, okay,
mm-hmm.
at about $1,000 an acre. Okay, so the farmer is going, well, I put it in, I planted my seeds, I walked away from it, wind and rain and summer and this, that, and the other, and here it comes back in September, and I can get $1,000 per acre, and I have 50 acres. Geez, that's $50,000, and I didn't have to touch it.
So there are many economic values.
Yeah, well, you have secondary processing on top of it, which is to promote the products that we use in daily life that
mm-hmm.
are non-toxic. Okay, so now without TPO plastics, putting out TPO is thermopolyolefin, which is a petroleum-based plastic. So it's synthesized from the oil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that particular oil goes everywhere. It goes into fertilizers, goes into the plastics, goes into films, goes into you name it, varnishes, coverings, things of that nature. All sorts of different things come from oil-based products. Well, that made us completely slaves to oil.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's the way, I call them handlers or government types or this, that, and the other. That's what they wanted, okay? But with oil products as well come, higher risk of health problems, okay? So the health industry is now directly affected by these oil products because now cancer is like always on the uprise. Stress
mm-hmm.
is always, so heart attacks and all. So they built this industry around a lie.
Right.
And everybody ate it up. They bought it. They were just shoved into a funnel, pooped out the other side as one block unit with one goal. Oh, we have to avoid hemp. It's the devil,
Right.
And it's not even an innocuous plant. It just does what it does.
Yeah.
But because of its structure and what it can achieve, it's always had value.
Absolutely. So let's get right down to it. We just have about 10 minutes left of the show. But one of the things I definitely wanted to answer is, how is Hempcrete different from Hemp Adobe?
Okay. Hempcrete uses two different kinds of binders, basically concrete and lime. And those are two components that once you mix them together with the cellulosic material of hemp hurd, they create petrification. Petrifying, okay, through time, and freeze-thaw cycles, hot and cold, sunlight, wind, everything that comes along with it, but is not structural, only because it needs timber framing inside of it to hold the mass together, which binds to the wood, or binds solely to itself and then to the wood. Where Hemp Adobe as a mag oxide product is structural from the get-go and is lighter than concrete, but also carries a negative ion, okay, which means there's no human fatigue around this material. So health-wise, it actually now both I want to go into the transpiration rates or the U. Okay, so hempcrete is at 0.150 U, which means it wicks. Okay, like a pair of socks. Well, Hemp Adobe does the same thing at 0.125, which is just a little bit better transpiration rates. So your building is not sweating as an airtight building. But
wow.
also, so it does the same. It does the same thing, but it's structural because the way that we make it, using honeycomb as an insert, and then two composite skins on the outside with basalt. Okay, we use basalt as a mesh. Right? Basalt is a quartz-like rock. It's woven into a carbon fiber, and we integrate that into the casting process. So we're basically building an eggshell, okay, a dual-walled eggshell with a lateral support mechanism of a honeycomb insert.
Amazing.
And all we have to do is match the skins of anywhere from 15 to 25 millimeters. Okay, so you got a half inch and you got an inch and an eighth. All right, and under compression, okay, you can load that structure at that per square inch mark at 6,500 to 11,000 pounds of compressive strength, which means we can run up about 7 levels without using rebar. So 7
that
stories.
Is so amazing.
Yeah, it's
so
just
that
engineering.
means it's really unlimited.
Correct.
As far as shape, as far as size. Yeah, I've heard you talk about monolithic structures, which is like this eggshell concept where the whole building is one solid piece, so that if there's a hurricane or a tornado or any type of disaster that comes through, your house is just going to sit there like a solid mass and not basically not be touched, right?
Well, that's to be seen. We have high wind impact and debris testing to go through on this, and I'm going to be very interested to see, how quick you can, at 150 miles an hour and a palm tree comes flying through either through your house or deflects and bounces off. I'm interested in finding out those numbers too,
absolutely.
Or like during a tornado where you look over the aftermath and this swath, this path going through Nebraska, and all you see is all these little toothpicks, and that's all the 2x4s that just was a structure at one time. I would like to fire off a 2x4 at about 150 miles an hour directly into the stuff to see what the impact resistance is going to be. Absolutely. So these are all things that are going to be coming available and will be available from the website once we get the materials in these configurations certified. It's already a certified material, so I don't have any issues with that. It's just that in our configuration, how we can make it better. But there's one thing I can tell you about Hemp Adobe. It has a 4-hour fire rating. So especially
which is just amazing.
Yeah, in your town of Weed, where half the town or a third of the town burned, the only thing you would lose is windows, not the structure.
Which is absolutely a security issue. It's an insurance benefit. It's definitely one of the main benefits of the Adobe. So we just have a few minutes left. Tell us briefly the process from start to finish, meaning from conceptual design of an Adobe Hemp home, all the way to actually moving into that house, as far as the input, the investment, and the duration of time that it would take. Just real briefly, what is that process, and how long would it take, and about how much of an investment for someone?
Okay, well, to start off with the investment, we're looking at about $80 a square foot for residential, and $65 a square foot for commercial. No windows, not a lot of doors on commercial buildings, right? And because of how we can make this an R80 building for insulative qualities, what we do is we cast the panels, we adhere them together, we let them cure, we have a forward team doing the infrastructure, sewer, septic, power, water, on the site, getting it ready for the building to come to you by truck, and then simply craned and using a crane and erecting it in one day. And then so you have say you have a forward team of 5 people, right? They get it all done, get the site ready to rock. Building shows up on Friday. They put this thing together using the same hemp Adobe, okay, the same mud as a glue, and monolithically piece these things together with detents or Legos, okay, like a Lego. And once this building comes together all the way in an 8-hour period of time, the family is free to move in on Saturday.
That's just a miracle.
It's just that easy. I mean, the material sets in 15 minutes. I demold it in 2 hours. I let it cure for anywhere from 3 days to a week, and we ship it out.
Wow. So if somebody already has their designs, their blueprints, they've got their CAD designs for their home that they want to build, how would they be able to get going? Obviously, I know you're still working on pulling the team together, the funding, and getting this available to the market. How can people get a hold of you? How can people start getting in line to start building their own custom hemp Adobe homes?
The easiest way is to go through the website, go through the all the well, there's not a whole lot of stuff there. It's either get a sample from us and sign up here, be on our list. Talk to me directly, and once the funding comes in, which should be pretty much any time this week, which is even better. I don't like to say or anything of that nature, because hope doesn't do anything. You either make it happen or you don't. And but the timing is right. They just need to reach out to me, and then once we agree on what standard course of business and such like that, I get the prints from them. We augment the prints because there is no timber framing, so there's no eaves and nothing hanging over. Well, quite frankly, we hide the gutters, okay, for rain catchment, that and the other, okay. The building is augmented and softened, okay. The corners are softened to a certain extent because of either seismic areas, high wind areas like Weed, where you're at. You have lots of domes that are around there, and it's a wind corridor. We would soften the area up, eliminate any overhangs and eaves, and if we did put any kind of overhangs and eaves, we would beautify them even more, make them more natural, more congruent settings around, so that you're not taking away from nature. You're staying inside of a certain footprint.
Exactly. Awesome.
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me is just go through the website and give me a ring.
Which is hempadobehomes.com. And Kevin Hodge is a wonderful guy to talk to. He's very knowledgeable. We'll be happy to start guiding and directing you on how you can start building your own hemp home. We just have a minute left here, so I want to thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. I hope to have you on another episode of Hempaware Radio, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about other ideas of how to use Hemp Adobe. I know we've been talking about a hemp theater in Weed, California, which is going to be a really fun project. We're looking forward to sharing that all with you, all the listeners here. But thanks again so much for joining us on today's show, Kevin, and I hope we can have you on a future show.
Yeah, and I look forward to coming down there on my way to Reno, where we're going to put the facility up and catch up with you and your guys and your people down there, so that we can get weed back on the map. I understand it's pretty beat up down there, so you need some new structures, and you need some new business and everything. So I'm happy to help.
Exactly.
Really.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. This is Hempaware Radio. Hempaware.com is the site. If you have a hemp company and you want to be on Hempaware Radio, just give us a call at 805-410-4367. If you have any questions about hemp, bulk hemp supplies, I'm happy to be of service. This is Tyler Hemp, and we love and appreciate you guys. Without you, this wouldn't happen. So working together, we're going to empower and hemp-educate your hemposphere. Have a fabulous day, and we look forward to hearing from you. And check out Hempaware on the podcasts on iTunes Radio or iTunes Podcasts. Love you. Peace.